The images and the video of his killing were chilling. They're images that we can't shake from our collective minds. It was painful. It was stomach churning. The casual violence, the callousness that it took to take someone's life in that way, the police officer taking the life of George Floyd. And I want to start today to talk about and reflect on the anti-Black racism that we are seeing in our society. We've seen in America, and right now people are hurting. When you see someone that looks like you being killed like that, it makes you feel like you have no worth and no value. It makes you angry. And I speak as an ally, someone who has felt the painful words and the physical violence of racism. And I have responded in anger. I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to fight back. And I understand the anger. I understand the frustration. I've heard people talk about enough's enough. How many lives must be taken? How many lives more will be taken? When will anti-Black racism end? Those are fair questions. Those are real questions. Those are real frustrations. And those are fair and legitimate frustrations. But I also want to say that while we look to the States, this is not just an American issue. Here in Canada, we face anti-Black racism as well. Black people have died at the hands of police. Right now in Toronto, people are reeling from the death of Regis Kurchinski-Paquette, and people are calling for justice for Regis. And thousands took to the street calling for that justice. We know that anti-Indigenous racism and deaths of Indigenous people at the hands of police is something far too common. So we have our own issues here in Canada, and we can't shy away from the anti-Black racism that exists and the frustration that people hear and feel. I don't have all the answers. I think we are going to have to come up with those answers together collectively. But I can say a couple of things. To quote Killer Mike, an organizer and activist in the Black community in the States, he talks about the importance for people right now to channel that frustration and that anger, to organize, to strategize, and to mobilize. Use the power that we have to fight back in the political realms, to organize and fight for systemic change. And a couple of things that we need when it comes to systemic change. One, it is very clear we need systemic change when it comes to policing. There needs to be really clear training around de-escalation. We see far too many incidences, so many incidents where a tense situation escalates instead of de-escalating and a life is taken. There needs to be a focus on de-escalation. There needs to be an end to discriminatory policing, which erodes public trust. Carding and practices like carding, where people are stopped, particularly racialized people, particularly Black people, are stopped just because of the color of their skin. It erodes trust between the public and police. And that makes it harder for everyone. It makes society less safe. It hurts everyone. We also need to tackle the injustice in the criminal justice system, the over-policing of Black bodies and Black lives, and the over-incarceration. And then finally, what we need to do is tackle the inequality, which perpetuates the undervaluing of Black life, of racialized people's lives. The inequality that exists, and we know it so clearly when it comes to access to education, when it comes to access to healthcare, health outcomes, access to employment, housing. We know that Black people, racialized people, Indigenous people are disproportionately impacted. So we need to tackle that inequality. We need more affordable housing. We need to ensure there's better outcomes for health, access to resources. And we need to make sure we have the data, that there's race-based data that allows us to make the evidence-based decision-making to remedy these injustices. There's a lot that we need to do, but we can come together and do it. There's a lot of pain and frustration, but we can channel that pain and frustration into action and into justice. I'm not someone who calls for peace. I believe we must call for justice. Justice is the only path towards creating a better world.